Hi, I'm Alexander Burke. I'm 33 years old and I live in Somerville, Mass. I was first diagnosed with Asperger Syndrome when I was 16. My parents assumed that I had ADHD, but then they noticed that there were some social issues that they couldn't quite explain. Now, when I was first diagnosed with ADD, Asperger Syndrome wasn't quite a diagnosis. So it wasn't until much later on, around my sophomore year of high school, that they determined that it was specifically Asperger Syndrome. That explained a lot of my social issues, my inability to make friends. So, with this additional knowledge, I was mostly on the right track, but they sort of nudged me down a very precise path. Not necessarily to some great future, but just to a point where I could actually really succeed. So, another major issue is that while Asperger syndrome already makes it difficult for someone to make social connections or understand social cues, I myself am just naturally a little bit shy. Not only do I not know how to start, but I also don't really want to. It's kind of the difference between being unsocial and being antisocial. With antisocial, you just don't want to associate with people at all. But when you're unsocial, you want to make that connection, but for whatever reason, you're just not able to. So that's always been an issue. So in high school, I had made a couple of friends on my freshman year, but for whatever reason, I didn't always feel that sense of connection. Like, they were from a different town, so they were already friends before I even met them. Now, so I always felt a little bit outside. Now, when I went to my college's orientation, it was totally different. Everyone was coming from different parts of the country, even some international students, all coming to this one place for this one specific goal, to meet people. So, we were all in the same situation. Nobody knew each other. There were no connections. So, we kind of had to come together and form our own. And I did. I actually made a couple of friends during that orientation that were my friends all through all 4 years. And then when college actually started, we still had that kind of core group. But as time went by, each of us had our different things, our different classes, different social groups, even different music groups. So, while we still had that core, everyone sort of spread out, met different people, went to different things, had different connections. I didn't have those social connections anymore, so I had to work my way in. Now, my roommate at the time, he had his own set of friends from his hometown. So he'd bring them along to different trivia nights, maybe out to a bar to see a band. He'd bring me along, I'd meet them, we'd have a good time. And then a little while after that, I actually met my upstairs neighbor. She was really nice. We got along well. We went out a few times. Nothing really happened, but it was just good to have that connection. And then, even after that, I decided to start reaching beyond people that I knew to things that I was interested in, and then meeting people based off of that. And after college, I fell out of touch with them. I was never very good at keeping touch, so they just kind of drifted off. And And when I moved out, about 4 years after I graduated, I was even more alone than before. So I wasn't even back at square one. I was back at square zero. This past summer, I started taking French lessons for the first time in about 10 years. Actually, I met a few people through that. A couple of friends. We'll sort of see how deep those relationships get. But I think it was just a matter of finally realizing that if I wanted to make friends, that they wouldn't necessarily come to me. I had to put myself out there. This was totally different from what I was used to. So, again, I didn't really know where to start. I have a few scattered pockets of friends here and there. Again, the desire is there, but the drive isn't. So, after all that, it came down to, it's not going to happen to me, so I have to make it happen myself. And that was the crucial thing. Now that I'm able to actually put myself out there, and I realize that any fear that I had about rejection was completely nonsensical, now I know that not only can I, but I can actually do it well.